Good morning, friends. This is Laura with Potpourri of Life. I hope you're having a great day. Today, what I want to share with you is a little bit about how I make carrot soup and why I make it. And the nice thing about carrot soup is you can eat it in the summer and you can eat it in the winter. It's a cold soup and a warm soup. So how I start is it's about 3 pounds of carrots. And what I did was, they're not hot yet, so basically I cut them down to about 4 to 5 inches, and then I sliced them a bit so that they can soften up. And that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to put a little bit of salt in. I'm not really a big salt person, but sometimes salt is what brings out the flavor. This is not iodized salt, it's sea salt, and that's the salt I prefer to use when I'm cooking. So I'm going to get this started. And other items that I'm going to be adding in here, it's going to be a very large sweet potato. And I'm going to add in the garlic, probably not all the cloves, but most of it, and then a nice red onion. And then I'm going to add in some other things, such as a lot of different spices or seasonings or herbs and stuff, more likely herbs and stuff. I kind of cook as I go and what I'm in the mood for and what I have in my cupboard, so we're going to see what we got. But I wanted to share with you, while the carrots are starting to boil, is the benefits. And a lot of people just say, oh, they're just great for your eyes. They are great for your eyes. And some people know that they're great for cancer prevention. Not everybody knows that. But we've grown up knowing that carrots are good for us, but we forget how good they are, and we might go grab them and just leave them in the refrigerator. Don't do that. When you go and get them, bring them home, make some soup, or just sit there and eat them raw, however you prefer. I'm going to share some benefits of carrots. So, and what also people don't know is there's actually water in your carrots. There's water, there's fiber, I can't talk, and carbs, of course, but these are good carbs because of how it's broken down. So the bright orange comes from the beta-carotene, which is linked to reducing the risk of cancer. So if you have cancer concerns or it runs in your family, eating carrots can be a help. There's no guarantee of prevention and stuff, but it's a food that is known to help. Antioxidant converts into a necessary vitamin A. Fiber slows down the digestion of sugar and starch, which is what helps people lose weight. Let's see, it also feeds the good gut bacteria. It has vitamin A, B, the biotin in B, so you don't need to buy those supplements. This is a natural biotin. Vitamin K1, which helps with blood coagulation and bone health. So those with osteoporosis or osteopenia, or just plain wanting to have healthy bones, this is a good thing to add in. Potassium helps with blood pressure. Vitamin B6 converts food into energy. So just a summary of what that's telling us is it supports and prevents cancer. Now, as I've shared before, I am not a doctor. I am just sharing things that I've learned, and before I came on to share this, I wanted to just make sure I got all the facts together just in case I missed one. It improves your vision, reduces risk of molecular degeneration, regulates blood pressure, takes care of your heart, improves digestion, helps your body immunity, and your oral health. Those were all the things that I found. Now, most of the things I knew it was cancer prevention. I knew it was good for your eyes. I didn't know about the bones, so that's a good thing. What I'm going to be adding in here, and I shared, was a sweet potato. A sweet potato also has the benefits that carrots do. It's a different vegetable, and there's some other benefits of a sweet potato, or even if I had yams. Today's not the day to talk. Maybe it'll help with my speech. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of nutritional value in having carrots. And what I'm going to be doing is I am going to boil these carrots to where they're just fork tender. And then I'm going to take them, I'm going to drain them. I'm going to actually take that water and probably put it in the compost or actually boil my sweet potato in. When I get to that, I'll kind of keep coming back and sharing a little bit more with that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to roast the carrots in the oven. And that way we can get a lot of the nutrients, and then later I'm going to put it all into a pot, let it cook down all together, and we are going to have a really delightful carrot soup. Now, have I had carrot soup before? I have, and I've made it differently. And more recently, I've just been kind of like, I got to make this a little bit more palatable for my husband, but also for myself. I actually like carrot soup, and I've made it before. I've made it with pumpkin. I've made it with butternut squash. And that's just it. When you make carrot soup, you can add whatever root vegetables you want into it. The thing that's going to give it flavor, though, is when you roast it in the oven at 450 for a spell, and I'll give you more details on that as I go. So I just want to share this. Now, this is an inexpensive meal, and I know you're going to go and get a 3-pound bag of carrots, a large sweet potato, I guess that would be 2 average sweet potatoes, a nice large red onion or whatever onion you want, some garlic, and I guess if you add it up it can be expensive, but I'll be honest with you, this will give us quite a few meals because we eat maybe half a cup of soup or maybe a cup of soup. This is not, it's an inexpensive meal that's going to give you a lot of nutrients, and you can add to it whatever you wish. And part of the reason I'm also sharing frugal meals is that, first of all, you're making it. You're not buying it from boxed products. This is something you're making from raw vegetables, from the ground, from your farmers, wherever you get this. It's better if you can grow it. I had no luck, but I tried. And this is the first year I did try for root vegetables. I didn't have much luck, but that's what farmer markets are for, or the produce aisle at the grocery store. But these things can last longer than just one meal, and that's why these are good things to kind of stretch out. One thing that you can do with the soup is if you want rice, you can add rice to it, or you can, make it a little bit thicker and just pour it over your rice. You can add in some cooked chicken. You can add a variety of things to your meal to make this a really nice meal. You don't have to add bread. You don't have to add breadcrumbs. I'm not doing any of that. But my husband might look at this and say, I'm going to have some soup crackers in it. We eat differently for some things. We might eat the same basic meal, and he changes his up according to what he prefers. Although he might eat it just the way I make it, and it's going to be really good. And I'm going to share more details about it as I go along. What I also wanted to talk to, and maybe I'm combining this a little bit into my Sunday reflection, I don't really know, I might come back and do that, is that there's a lot of talk out there. I go online, I see the news that comes on over my screen when I sign on to the computer, and there's a lot of stuff being said. How true it is, I don't know. And I've shared this before. One of the biggest problems in our culture, all over the world, is when we inflict fear on people, they stop living life fully. Now, I have concerns, and sometimes they're kind of scary concerns, but we gotta stop being afraid. I mean, I don't know why this is happening. And there's a lot of YouTubers out there. Every day I go onto their channel, and I think I've shared this before, all they're talking about is go stock up your pantries, go stock up your pantry. How much do you need in your pantry? Could it be a year's worth? I don't know. I think what it is for me, and some of them are selling all kinds of gadgets and stuff, and I've just gotten to the point where it's like everybody's making money off this fear thing, okay? I'm not saying we're not going to have food shortages, because in a way I kind of believe it. We've had a lot of problems with the chicken farms and some of the food farms and some of the manufacturers of food. It's going to raise the cost of food. Why is it happening? I don't know. I really don't know. And I don't understand why it has to be this way. But you can overcome this by not gravitating to running to the store, filling up your grocery cart because you're afraid. Fill up your cart with the foods that you're going to eat. And if you want to have a pantry, pick up a few extra items as you go. That's what Dave and I do, but we do that. We've always done that. And the reason is there are times that we might not be able to afford to go to the grocery store, or we have to cut back because of major expense that might be here, or maybe one of us is ill or has a procedure, or whatever the case may be, we may not be in the position to go to the grocery store, or we may not have the finances. So that's something we've always done. We've always had, a little bit extra food on hand, so we didn't have to worry about that. Even in the event of this carrot soup that I'm making, I probably will put it in small containers and put them in the freezer, sort of like what I do when I make pea soup. I make the pea soup and then I put it in 2-person portion sizes, so that when we're kind of like, I don't want to make anything, what do we have? We can open up our freezer door and there is some soup there, and it's filling, and it's sustainable and stuff. So what you can do is, you're going to probably tell me, I don't want to eat carrot soup all week. You don't have to. But you can make this and then put it in your freezer. The nice thing about this soup that I'm making, it's going to be a creamy carrot soup. And there's not going to be any milk in it, folks. No milk. So those of you who are dairy intolerant, you don't have to worry about that. But if you wanted to add a little bit of creaminess to it, you can add the milk that you can consume, whether it's goat milk, oat milk, almond milk, soy milk, and regular milk, folks. You can add to it later on, especially if it's really hot and you decide, oh, I just want a little cream. But you won't have to, because by the time I'm done, it's going to be a beautiful, creamy carrot soup. And it's going to be very good for your health. And we're going to add in, like I said, I'm going to add in some garlic. I'm going to add in a really nice, healthy red onion, sweet potato, and then I have a bunch of other herbs that I'm just going to kind of like, I'm going to start pulling them out and just say, yep, we're going to add this, we're going to add that, because that's how I cook, whatever I'm drawn to do. And one thing that haven't decided yet, I might add in the cinnamon because of the nutritional benefits of that. So, and sometimes you can add in a little honey. Why I'm sharing a little bit of this with you is that a carrot soup does not have to be made from a recipe. For those of you who are struggling, and trust me, I've been there, I know what it means to stretch our dollars. And sometimes there's just not enough money. But you know what? Instead of going to the store and picking up those macaroni and cheeses, which feeds one meal most often, like Dave and I don't enjoy it. We used to buy it for the kids, but it's one meal. And where's the nutritional punch in that? And I might get attacked by that, but truly, where's the nutritional punch in macaroni and cheese? It's a comfort food, but the macaroni is not the greatest for you. I'm not saying not to have it, because I make meals with macaroni. What I'm trying to say is, this is actually inexpensive, and for the cost of packaged foods nowadays, with all the additives, I think you might find that your body will be healthier. And if we are heading into a silly storm, I'm trying to keep, I could have said something else, but I'm trying to be kind here. If we're going into one of these SHTFs or whatever, then you need to start thinking nutritiously, how to build up your body with strength and stuff. Now, I have osteoporosis, and I'm doing everything possible to build my body, my bone strength up. I have some other things going on, but you know what? I'm working every day towards trying to make it better. Will it get better? I have no idea. It's sort of like these food shortages. I have no idea. But you know, I want to live for the moment. And that's what I want to reiterate today is live for the moment. Live and make sure your body is healthy. Make sure your mind is healthy. And keep your mind busy. Watch good sources of entertainment when you watch the news. Listen to enough of it so you know what's going on. But don't stay in touch with the negativity. And I still do watch some of those YouTubers that tell us all the bad stuff that's going on. Oh, my hair. But I can't sit and watch them for a long time, because you know what? I don't want to sit on the couch and be afraid I'll starve, or my husband and I will starve, or my kids will starve, because we're not going to. And part of the reason is we know how to take a few basic items and we can make a meal that'll last a few days. And you can preserve it by putting it in the freezer if you don't want to have it every day. Or you can eat it every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a couple days. I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend maybe, like tonight, we will probably have this for supper along with something on the side. Tomorrow we might have this with, maybe I'll have it on the side with meatloaf or whatever it is I choose to have as a main dish. But it's something that if you're having a sandwich, you can also have this on the side. So there's a lot of nutritional punch in a carrot soup. And I'm sharing this because I really do like carrot soup. And I'm excited to be making it. I mentioned it yesterday and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to get this done. Be very careful of your produce out there. I did pick up some carrots. I'm glad I picked up extras because by the time I got it home, and I didn't know it until today, there were some bad parts. And I'm like, this is discouraging. And I'm finding that often. And now I'm finding it at the farm stand that I go to. So it's getting to where when you bring your food home, take a look at it right then and there and wash it up for some of these items. And then make your food. Don't buy in bulk unless you can dehydrate. I did do some dehydrating of carrots and potatoes this past summer. I canned potatoes. So even if I didn't have any potatoes, raw potatoes, I've got some in a jars. I don't know how many I did, maybe a dozen jars or something, so I have something. But I think we need to be very careful when we go to the produce aisle at the grocery store. Make sure it's still good. I bought kale for the chickens, and I actually might be putting some red kale into this as well, because that's what I buy them. I buy them green kale and red kale because I want my chickens healthy too. Just because they're a farm animal, just because they're just an added thing, they're producing a product of health for us. They're producing those eggs. And I always have better response to chickens that were well taken care of versus the eggs that I bought at the grocery store. That is why I have the chickens. Plus, the cost of eggs were going too crazy, and I just like, I told David, I said, I'm getting chickens. And that's why I have them. So, excuse me, I have to get a drink. So just watch your vegetables and fruit when you get them. When you grab an apple, check for bruises and stuff. If you're okay with that one little bruise because you're going to go home and have it right away, that's fine. But like carrots, if you're going to have it in your refrigerator, they used to last a long time. I can't keep them in the cold part of our cellar. They'll go bad. I can't keep them in the refrigerator. But our house isn't set up that way either. I've tried to make different arrangements to see if this would work, and it's not going the way I planned. So I have to buy as I can. And that's what you want to do. You want to make sure that you're getting really good produce. And if that means you have to go back a couple times, that is okay. So, but I would recommend you going to the produce aisle more than the prepackaged food aisle. But you can have the staples. Okay, I'm talking like I'm your mother. You can do whatever you want, okay? Some of the staples we have are basic soups, but I make my soup, so I don't need many off the shelf soups. We have them in the event we use up all of ours, and there really is a problem. But we only have a few. I think you're going to like this soup overall. And I could ramble and ramble and ramble, but I don't want to. So I'm going to let the carrots boil down. And keep in mind, it's Sunday, you might be putting together a grocery shopping list. Think about what kind of foods could you take home and create meals. And sometimes what we do, and it makes life so much easier, is once the meals are done, I put them in containers, reusable containers, glass dishes and stuff, and you put them in the freezer. So that when it's sort of like after Thanksgiving, you can make a bunch of meals out of all that turkey and everything else. We make casseroles or we make everything else, and then we put that in the oven. We didn't have a big turkey this year, so there really wasn't much for leftovers. We made one big dish, and we brought some over to Holly's house. But you can take what you have and put it in small portion servings in your freezer so it doesn't have to go bad. So if you get a good deal on produce, think about that you can do that to save you some money. But so I'm going to come back after the carrots are done. I will be putting those into the pan to roast them in the oven, and then we'll be back. Enjoy your day, and we'll talk soon. Okay, I am back. We're still working on the carrot soup. What I'm going to do is, the carrots were done. I got a phone call from my husband, then somebody dropped by, but it's still, the carrots are still hot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to strain out the carrots, but I'm going to reserve the water. And I do this a lot because I don't like wasting. And not only that, but there's still a lot of nutritional value in the water. So before I go and I compost it, I'm going to use it to boil the sweet potato. So I'm going to get these in first. I'm going to actually get the oven up to 450. And then once I get everything together, it'll be up to temperature, and then we can start cooking this and getting it going. And the nice thing is, when I get this to the point where it's all taken care of in the oven, I can actually sneak a little bit for a little treat. All right, so everything is out of the water. And so what I'm going to do to prepare is, this is hot. I am now going to get a pan and start browning some onion. Now you can use olive oil, you can use butter, you can use whatever you are most comfortable using for browning. That's why this recipe, if you want to call it a recipe, is so good, because you can kind of make it with what you have on hand. And what I'm doing is I'm cutting an onion, and I'm hoping we don't have any ugly crying here, because that wouldn't be good. Not in my opinion. All right. It's starting to get a little burny on my eyes, but I'm going to have this go down so you don't have to watch me cry. You can watch me cut the onion instead. So what I'm going to do is, as the oven is warming up, I'm going to get the onion browned a bit. And just slice it down so that it can brown up really nice. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some olive oil. And get that going. Oh, and I wanted to show you yesterday, if you weren't watching, this is the garlic infused in honey, and see how it kind of all floated to the top like I told you it would. And all you want to do is just let the honey go to it. I saved it so that I could show you. Just let it get infused a little bit more, and then once that's done, you just flip it back over, and you do this every day for 2 weeks. So this is day 1, full 1 day. Okay, let's get the rest of these onions. And I'm going to keep this recipe really simple, and you can add in whatever you want. Okay, So this is the rest of my onions, and I'm going to get them in here. And what I'm doing is I'm going to get the onions browned. But the other thing that I'm going to add in, after I get these onions out of the way, should probably feed them to the chickens, they love them, is I'm going to also add in some garlic. I always have a hard time getting the stem out. So I'm going to take 2 large cloves of garlic, and I'm going to do what I did yesterday to do the infusion. I'm going to cut off the ends and peel it. And we got some bad part in there. Get rid of that. That one's not looking so good, so that clove is not going to work for us. Let's check on this one. It's okay if this whole clove is not good, because I always have some dried. This one is pretty good. So I'm just cutting this down a little bit just to kind of bring it down smaller. And add it in with the onions. So I'm going to take another clove, and hopefully that is in good shape. I had it up a little bit high. You just kind of want to just get it to its browning stage. Okay, we get the garlic in there. And get it to where it's just browned up a little bit. And it won't take too long for this to happen. The other thing that I'm going to add in is I'm going to add in some dried thyme. I'm going to cut that up. And I have some dried rosemary. So I'm going to add that in. These are things that I would put into you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm just going to kind of like get the leaves so that they come off. And now put the stemmy parts in. Just the leaf part of these herbs. Because even see, I got all the leaves off of the thyme. That's what I try to do. And you can sometimes do it like this, where you just kind of go down and just get the leaves off. And with rosemary, I just break the rosemary down into little pieces. It smells really good in here. But those of you who cook with these things, you know that it smells good. And I just kind of keep stirring this in, heating it up. The reason that I am not putting butter in is so that it is okay for anybody that can't have milk. And that's why I'm recommending just use olive oil for it. So I've got, and don't worry about these pieces because when it's all done, we're going to actually blend it. You can use an immersion blender, which I might do, or you can actually put it in your Ninja, your blender, whatever it is that you blend your soups in or other items in. I might do the immersion blender, I haven't decided. But if you use your blender, make sure your items have cooled down a bit. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is, the stove is off, and I am going to take this and put it over the carrots. Now remember, the carrots are already soft, and the reason we're putting, oh, this is not helping my wrist. Let's see. There's a better way to do this. Cast iron. I love cooking with cast iron, but they're really heavy for me. Sorry about the noise. So what you're going to find that when this is all baked inside, you're going to be able to eat it just like this as a dish if you want. But since I'm going to be making carrot soup, that's not what's going to happen. I might sneak a bite or two. So what I wanted to show you, did I take those? Yes. This is what it looks like. And it actually looks really good. And that is going to go into the oven for about 20-25 minutes and let it bake. Allow the onions and everything else to kind of like macerate together and stuff. And I'm going to let that sit in there. I'm not going to put, you know what I want to do? I want to put aluminum foil over it. So that everything can kind of like just stay in the pan. So the oven is up to temperature. I'm going to put this in the oven for 20-25 minutes, and then I'm going to start boiling the sweet potato. So this is done. Let this go off to the side to cool. I'm going to bring this forward. What I'm doing is I'm using the same water that I used for the carrots. It's all going into the same thing and it'll be fine. So for those of you that might be worried, don't be worried. It's all okay. So I have got to get my other one. It's interesting because I can use this peeler for my potatoes, but I have to have this peeler for my sweet potatoes. I don't know what it is about it, but that's just the way it is. Maybe it's just the way I peel. So I'm going to put this down. You can see my messiness from everything. So I'm going to just peel the sweet potato, or not. And all this goodness will go out to the chickens or the compost. Generally speaking, I like them getting the cooked vegetables, and they tend to like it better as well. Yes, I'm making a mess, but it's actually, this is the easiest way to do it. Okay. Had a knife here. There he is. Nice and buried. And there's herbs on my knife, so don't worry about that. So all I'm doing is cutting the sweet potato down into chunks. Should be using a different knife for this. Once you get them down into their chunks, put it into the carrot water that you have. Now you might need to add more and stuff like that to keep them covered so that you can heat them. The reason that I like to cut my vegetables down to small pieces is because I find that they boil faster, they get softened faster. Yeah, that's all. And it's okay if you have herbs all over your potatoes, because it's only going to add to the seasoning and stuff. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to get these boiled. There's plenty of water left to soften these up. In the time frame that is left, which is 20 minutes, and I'm not going to sit here and talk for 20 minutes, I will clean up and get this all ready, and then we're going to put it all together to make the soup. So I hope you stay tuned, come right back. Actually, it'll all be together. But I hope that you stay with me so that you can see the end, and you won't be able to taste it, but at least you'll have the idea of how this is made. So I'll be back. And we continue on. Okay, all the vegetables are out of the oven and the sweet potatoes are cooked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the aluminum foil, turn off the oven, and you can hear it sizzling still. So what is going to happen now? I boiled the sweet potatoes in here. There is not much liquid left, and I'll show you. There's not really a lot left. But what I'm going to do is I am going to take the sweet potatoes out of there for now. And we're going to put them in a different pot. Because sometimes the carrots and the potatoes can have kind of like a scum on top. So that's what I'm doing. Let's see what we got here. I am just going to take the sweet potatoes out and put them into the other pan. And they're nice and soft, so these are going to be perfect for blending. But it's too hot to blend right now. And I realize that some might be saying this is just too tedious. It's well worth it, folks. It is well worth it. Okay. And there's really not much broth left from the carrots or the sweet potatoes. There really isn't that much. As you can see, it's just very little, and it's enough to go into the compost. I don't really need to put it anywhere else. But I'm still going to let it cool. All right, so I have the sweet potatoes. I'm going to add in the carrots, the onions, and other seasonings. And we're going to cook them all together. And like I said, I know that this might seem really tedious, but it's going to taste really good. Okay, how do I want to get this in there faster? All the carrots, all the onions, all those wonderful flavors are going to all come together. And one of the other things that I'm going to do, so you don't have to watch me do this, I am going to add in some gamasio. This is a seafood type kelp. So it's sesame seeds, seaweed, and sea salt in it. I know I put a little bit of sea salt in already, so I'm just going to put a little bit in. Just enough. That was probably a teaspoon to a tablespoon. So I'm going to get these processed over there. I know it takes a while to get this made, but trust me, it'll be worth it in the end. It does seem like it's an all-day thing. It's not really. It's just one of those things you do in pieces. So I have some chicken broth that I made. This is 2 pints, so it's a quart that I'm going to actually add in here because there's not much liquid in here. So we're going to add these in. So this is chicken, but mostly vegetable broth. I used the bones from chickens. And then we're going to just add all those vegetables I've saved over time. That's what I've added in. Now, there's not a lot of liquid in here, so I am going to add in some filtered water. And I am going to start cooking it down a little bit more. And I know it seems like, boy, that's a lot of cooking. By the time this is done, you're going to be really happy about it. So what I'm going to do now is I am just going to get it so that the broth and the water is warm or hot. And then what I'll do is I'll let it sit until it's all done, meaning I'll cook it and I'll get the water up to temperature, the broth and the water up to temperature, and it'll mix all these delicious flavors together. And then what I'm going to do is I'll put a cover on it after that and let it sit to cool just a little bit, so that I could either use the manual blender, the immersion blender, or put it into my Ninja. I have a feeling I'm going to do the immersion blender, but we will see. So I'm going to let this do its thing, and then I will be back to finish this up for you. Stay tuned. Okay, we're down to the final finale here of what we're doing. I am actually going to use the blender. I could put it into the mixer, and I probably should, but everything is really hot, so I want to just get started in doing this. So I'm going to do this little by little. Get it into your water so it doesn't splash all over everywhere. And so that's what I'm going to be doing. So I'm not going to make you listen to this the whole time, but I'm going to use my blender, my immersion blender, to kind of get it down. So I'll be right back. Okay, folks, the soup is done. Now, how does it taste? Well, it was kind of like, for my husband, I know it's going to be a little bland. So I ended up putting in a tablespoon of sucanat. Sucanat. It's S-U-A, excuse me, S-U-C-A-N-A-T. What this is, it's sugar cane that was dehydrated. So I put a tablespoon of this just to kind of give it a little bit of a sweetness so that my husband would like it. And I'm so used to his, what kind of sweetness he likes, but I don't have a lot of sugar in here. It's just 1 tablespoon. And this is a big pot of carrot soup. The main ingredient is 3 pounds of carrots. First step is boil them down till they are fork tender. Once they are fork tender, take them out of the water, save that water, put that in a baking dish. I've already washed it up. Put it in a baking dish with some olive oil, and then, if you want, and then put in, on another dish, you're going to have to cook up some onions, your garlic, and I put in rosemary, and I put in, it'll come to me. Well, anyways, hold on, let's see what I put in there. I put in the thyme. So rosemary and thyme are in here. And, you know, the garlic, the olive oil, all of that. So the onions and the garlic, I cooked up until they were soft into another frying pan. And then I took them, put them on top of the carrots, and I let them bake at 450 for about 20-30 minutes. And I let them cook. I did cover them. You do not have to cook them. I mean, excuse me, you do not have to cover them. So you can cook them either covered or uncovered. I chose to cover it because it just makes them softer. But if you don't, you'll end up getting a nice baked crispy type flavor, which is very tasty as well. So those are cooking. So the water I left in the original pan that I cooked and softened the carrots to, I cooked my sweet potatoes in until they were softened. So I think it was like 25 minutes. It took about that much time to soften the sweet potatoes and enough time for them to bake. That was all done. Now, yes, this does take time, and I've come back and forth. I've had phone calls and stuff like that, but you know what? I think in total it'll amount to about, 25? It might amount to an hour and a half. Or you got all the peeling and stuff like that. But if you want something good, sometimes it takes, this isn't instant, go to the store, buy a package and boil it, put some water in and put it in the nuker for 5 minutes. This is making something from raw foods that'll be feeding your body in a healthy way. So we got those items. I put them all together, and I added in some gamasio. You do not have to add this. This just has some sesame seeds, some seaweed, and a little bit more salt. And I did put in some non-iodized sea salt. So just be careful how much salt you put in. You can put more in for flavoring if you desire. Whatever works for your diet and your particular taste buds. Could it use more salt? Probably. What I will find probably when my husband gets home, he will probably add a little bit more salt. But what I did to make it more palatable is I added that 1 tablespoon of sucanat sugar, which, like I said, it's from the cane sugar. It's been dehydrated, so it's even better for you than brown sugar. You want to add in brown sugar? A tablespoon of brown sugar, or a tablespoon of whatever sweetener you want. You could put honey in here as well. Overall, this is going to be a really good dish to have. Let me see. Let me get a bowl. see how this is. I think it's still a little hot. As you could see, it was popping up. I'm going to let it cool while I talk. Wow, this is really good. I always lick my fingers as if I can once I'm almost done. And I used my chicken broth that I made, and it was mostly all my vegetables. And if you've seen any of my videos from before, I actually save all my veggie scraps when they're raw scraps. I've washed my vegetables and they're raw scraps. I take those and I throw them into the freezer. Today I did a lot of cooking and I'm just throwing those right into the compost. But generally I just take all my veggie scraps, put them in a bag, and save up a bunch. And then I use the bones of either chicken, beef, turkey, whatever I have for bones, and I save those too so that I can get the nutrients from those bones. So this was actually chicken broth, and I used a full quart, and it was in 2 pints because I make them in small pints a lot of times, because if we want to have rice or a small dish, I only want a pint. But because this is a soup, I used the full quart, and I would use a full quart like with chili and that kind of stuff. So all of this stuff is all organic. It's all delightful stuff. There is no additives in here at all. So it takes time. You can't just go and make this from a box and nuke it. That's not how it's going to work. So to make a nice, really healthy soup, and it's nice and thick, I did use the immersion blender. You can make it creamier, I guess, if you put it in the blender, but I'm getting away from using my blender as much. I kind of like the immersion. But this is really good. So just 1 tablespoon of the sugar. Now, my taste buds are very different than most people. I don't need a lot of sugar and I don't need a lot of salt. So when you cook, you need to season it to what you want to have. Use whatever, whatever herbs you want to add, whatever seasonings, whatever. But I do strongly recommend the garlic. 2 large cloves of garlic, 1 large red onion, and I mean you can do a sweet onion as well. I just like the red onions. I find them to be better. You know, that's my preference. Just use some really good stuff and peel the carrots, chop them up so they boil quickly. I think you're going to be really happy with this. I hope that this it wasn't as easy flowing, whatever that I would normally want you to see, but the result is a real delightful soup. And when you are done, like, this is a lot of soup for David and I. We will both have a nice bowl of soup tonight. I might make some homemade bread or rolls so that we can have that with it, or maybe I haven't decided. Actually, my appetite's not that great for tonight, so I might just have a bowl of soup. And if you think about it, the sweet potato and the carrots are very filling. So you're not going to really need anything else unless you like to have like another sandwich. This is a great dish to have when you're having like a turkey, or if you're having ham, any of those type meat products, or venison. That's my favorite. He didn't get a chance to go out hunting this year, and I'm kind of heartbroken, but you know, things happened in life. And we have other responsibilities to tend to first. So next year, hopefully, he'll be able to go out and maybe I can get some training so that I can go with him. But in the meantime, we're going to enjoy vegetables as we get them and make some very healthy meals. Oh, and as I was leading to, you can take this. This is probably for 2 people, there's probably about 8 servings here. I really haven't measured it out. So I will probably put it in individual containers once it's cooled, and I'll put it in the freezer. And all you have to do is don't use your microwave. Heat it up in a pan, whatever saucepan you have. And yeah, I do enjoy using cast iron, but you don't have to use cast iron. This particular one is not. The cast irons are what I used. Nice thing about cast iron, because I don't have a lot of counter space. I don't know if you've noticed. Once I wash them, and I wash them right away so they don't rust, I actually dry them with the towel a little bit, and then I put them on the burner, and I turn the heat up so it dries completely so there's no moisture. So I kind of do things as things are going on. While one thing is cooking, I'll go and clean up as I go, because I use multiple things. And that's one thing that'll make your life easier by the time your meal is done, is just do a little bit as you go, so it's not so, your sink's not so full. It's just something I've learned to do. So I hope this was helpful. I hope that when you go to make it, that you find it really good. And remember, you may not like it as bland as I do, because I don't like a lot of salt and I don't like a lot of sugar. You may want to put in maybe a little extra salt. Try to use the sea salt. Try to use a good blend of salt. If that is not enough, then move it up to maybe adding like a tablespoon of a healthy sugar. But don't put tons in it. This is not a dessert. This is kind of like a main meal or a side dish. So I hope this was informative, and I actually hope that you come back and tell me how it turned out for you. Yes, it's a lot of work, but you know what? While parts of things are cooking, you can get your dishes done. I know, yahoo! Or you can get along and do some other things. You can read a little bit or whatever it is, but just remember to be mindful of your stove. Have a great day, folks, and enjoy and stay healthy. God bless.